are in all of our actions? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? And are we building positive connections with our community and outside partners? And is the decision-making process building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community? All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag.
I'm waiting for a moment here for the flag to come up. Brandy's trying to get it there. Maybe not. All right, I'll improvise. Got a flag here. Let's see. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A little glare off my window on the screen, but we made it work. So, all right, we have a published agenda this evening. Are there any proposed modifications to this evening's agenda? Councilmember Rosapippi, I see your hand raised.
Yes, Mayor, I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rosapippi, a second by Councilmember Diener to approve the agenda as presented this evening. All in favor of approving the proposed agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been set for tonight. We're to our citizen comment period. Brandy, do you have anybody in the lobby or on the line that wishes to provide comment? If you're online, use the raise your hand feature and the clerk will bring you into the meeting.
Mayor, we do not have anybody in the audience tonight to speak, but we do have somebody in the audience online that wishes to speak, and I will allow them to speak when you are ready to allow them to.
Okay, so please bring them into the meeting, and they will have 3 minutes to address the city council.
All right, they should be able to speak now, and it is labeled Pat St. Laurent.
Pat, all right.
Well, right on. Good evening, all. Pat St. Laurent. My wife and I have lived in Port Orchard since early 2019, and we live downtown in the former Cedar Cove Inn. As no doubt many of you are aware, there's a nightly disturbance of drivers revving their very loud car engines in the parking lot behind the Peninsula Feed Store and alongside the gazebo. More recently, these cars have been modified to backfire, creating sounds that mimic gunshots. And there are an increasing number of cars doing donuts or drifting in the parking lot, adding substantial risk and prevailing noise that is very disturbing to downtown citizens. This happens every single night of every single week, often after we're in bed, and I loathe the idea of getting up out of bed to call 911. It's a recipe for getting worked up and laying awake for an hour when I need to be up for work before 5 a.m. This nightly disturbance is materially affecting what would otherwise be the peace of a small town. And the disturbance is not confined to residents. We operate an Airbnb that produces a healthy occupancy tax for the city. And there are a handful of others who are in the same boat as us. We've had many guests raise the topic, and we try to excuse it by telling them this is unusual, which is in fact a bald-faced lie because there's nothing unusual about it. It doesn't seem at all fair that a handful of people should be free to disturb dozens or hundreds of us who listen to their noise 7 nights a week, including many nights when their noise is after 10 p.m. And that, by the way, is independent of the speed at which they drive on Bay Street, Sydney, and in and around the parking lot. We would like to see proposed solutions. We understand that nothing is easy. We, and I speak for me and several of my colleagues and neighbors who live around here, we want to offer the City Council an opportunity to deal with the difficult challenge ahead and try to solve this problem for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
Yes.
All right, any other citizens wishing to address the council, Brandy?
Not at this time.
Okay. I'm going to close the citizen comment period, and we are to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Go ahead, Councilmember Diener.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Diener, and I think a second by Councilmember Fenton to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. We have two presentations tonight, the first of which is from the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council Roadshow. And Zach Otto and other guests are here to talk to us about a little bit about the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council. Mayor Erickson is the president of Puget Sound Regional Council, and I think she's part of this presentation too this evening. And they've been going around to all of the jurisdictions in Kitsap County and giving us an update on the going-ons and the role of KRCC. So Zach, welcome. Mayor Erickson, welcome. And Sophie Glass from KRC Triangle Associates and KRCC is also with us here today. So Zach, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just let our clerk get the PowerPoint up for us.
Perfect. I think she's got you.
Thank you. And if we could also have my colleague Pauline made as a panelist as well. I believe she's in the viewing. That'd be great. But I can go ahead and get us started here. Yeah, I just want to thank the council for allowing us to come and present to you today. The KRCC Executive Committee sees this roadshow as an opportunity for newly elected officials to learn about KRCC's role in Kitsap County and to learn about the funding streams that Kitsap receives through participation in the Puget Sound Regional Council. So the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council is the council of local governments for Kitsap County and Washington State. KRCC members collaborate on regional transportation and land use decisions. Just a little background history right here. KRCC was established in 1992 to serve the planning objectives of the Washington State Growth Management Act that was implemented into law back in 1990. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, scroll down. So KRCC's purpose is to facilitate dialogue between its member agencies in the areas of land use and growth planning and transportation. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this map gives you a pretty familiar map of Kitsap County and the different cities and boundaries of Kitsap County, including the main cities and tribal reservations that are part of KRCC, and that includes the cities of Bainbridge Island, Port Orchard, Bremerton, Poulsbo, and like I said, the two tribes, the Suquamish tribe and the Port Gamble Suqualan tribe. Go to the next slide. And so again, this kind of gives you an overview of our members of KRCC. And as part of KRCC's interlocal agreement, the undersigned members recognize the need and desirability to participate in a forum for intergovernmental coordination, cooperation, and consultation among member agencies in order to bring about a continuous and comprehensive regional planning process and efficient service delivery. And that is what all these members on this page have signed and agreed to as part of their interlocal agreement. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so just to give you a brief overview of us, the KRCC staff, Sophie Glass, she is currently our program director. Pauline Mogilewski is our land use coordinator. Emily Pilchowski, who's not with us tonight, is our transportation coordinator. And I serve as the coordination lead for KRCC. The KRCC staff kind of serve as the primary facilitators and meeting support for KRCC meetings. Our primary duties are to serve as neutral third-party facilitators and assist with any internal KRCC matters. We think of ourselves as kind of process experts as opposed to technical experts on land use and transportation. So now you can go to the next slide. Yeah, perfect. So every year we have elected a chair and vice chair to serve as the heads of KRCC. The current chair and vice chair is currently held by Mayor Joe Dietz of Bainbridge Island, and Commissioner Stracheljohn currently serves as our vice chair, and he serves as a commissioner to the Port of Bremerton. The executive committee is a small steering committee that prepares us for executive board meetings and is chosen by the KRCC chair on an annual basis. And Mayor Patonsu and Mayor Erickson also serve on that executive committee. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this kind of just gives you a broad overview and structure of KRCC and the executive board at the top, which meets approximately about 6 times per year. Like I said, you have the executive committee, which is kind of KRCC's steering committee. And then you also have these 2 policy planning committees that that focus on KRCC's focus areas of transportation and land use. So we have our transportation policy planning committee, what we call TransPol, and our land use policy planning committee known as PlanPol. And in addition to that, we have these 2 kind of subcommittees, or as we call them, technical committees, consisted of TransTac, which is made up of different transportation engineers who work for the local jurisdictions in the area, including Port Orchard, and also LUTAC, who are our land use coordinators and different city planners across Kitsap County. And both these kind of different planning meetings happen sporadically throughout the year. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so this gives you kind of an overview of some of Port Orchard's representatives who serve on KRCC. Like I said, Mayor Patonsu, he is on the executive board and the executive committee. Councilman Teneri also serves on the executive board. Mayor Patonsu serves on PlanPol and TransPol, and Council Member Rosa Pepe serves as an alternate on both TransPol and PlanPol. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so like I said, the 2 focus areas of KRCC are land use and transportation. And now my colleague Pauline will now share more background on our land use program.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. If you go to the next slide, I just have a couple slides summarizing KRCC's land use program. So the real center of the land use program is the county-wide planning policies. That's a document that Kitsap creates as a bridge between the regional planning that happens at the Puget Sound Regional Council and the planning that you all are doing as jurisdictions via your comprehensive plans. I'll talk more about that later, but the other item that's related to those countywide planning policies are discussions about how housing, population, and employment are allocated across Kitsap County. The Washington State Growth Management Act requires jurisdictions to collaborate with each other on conversations about these 3 topics, and so KRCC is the forum for that collaboration. Other pieces of the land use program are ensuring consistency across each jurisdiction's comprehensive plans and participating in regional planning via the Puget Sound Regional Council. There's also space for any other sort of emergent land use initiatives that come through that require the sort of collaboration and coordination that KRCC is a good forum for. So for example, this year, KRCC started a process of developing pre-approved accessory dwelling unit plans. And that's just one tool in the toolbox to support affordable housing that really benefits from having multiple jurisdictions collaborate with each other. So that's a big item on the work plan for this year and part of next year. If you go to the next slide, please. Just a little deeper dive into the countywide planning policies and the recent work that has been done at KRCC for various aspects of those. So you can see in 2020 and 2021, KRCC put a lot of time and effort into updating, ratifying, and eventually adopting the countywide planning policies and making sure they both align with state and regional requirements and are tailored to Kitsap County. The next year in 2022, KRCC was the place for discussing updating population and employment targets. And then in 2023, housing allocations, all based on state projections of what population, employment, and housing needs will be needed in Kitsap County in the next 20 years. And then just the overall purpose of all of this work is to make sure that Kitsap communities are prepared for the next 20 years of growth. So that's just a quick overview of land use. I'll switch it over to Sophie now to talk about transportation.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us here. The main focus areas of the transportation program is receiving money through Puget Sound Regional Council's 2 transportation competitions. But in addition, We like to keep members informed about state funding opportunities. And if there is an emergent issue, similar to what Pauline said on land use, KRCC staff has been happy in the past to do some research and provide some coordination around some pressing problems or questions. Go to the next slide. So these transportation competitions happen at 2 levels. And the one level is with the 4-county region with Pierce, Snohomish, Kitsap, and King counties. And the other level is within Kitsap itself. And so I'm going to get a little bit more detail about where the money comes from and how it's allocated. So you can go to the next slide. So this is the county-wide competition, the last 12 years of awards, so 2012 to 2024. And this is the opportunity every 2 years, Port Orchard, as with the other jurisdictions within Kitsap, receive a pot of money around $10 to $12 million. And they divide it up using pre-approved criteria that the KRCC board signs off on that kind of reflects the regional priorities. And so that you'll see over these last 12 years, Port Orchard has received a little over $7 million through these competitions, or through this competition, I should say. Next slide, please. And then the regional competition that I mentioned, the only jurisdictions that are eligible to compete regionally are those that can demonstrate a connection to what is called a regional center. So the 4-county region has designated places where they really want to target some major population growth. And so Silverdale is a regional center, Bremerton is a regional center, and in the case of Bainbridge Island, they made the case that they connect to downtown Seattle regional center, as well as Kitsap Transit and WashDOT also made those regional center connections. And with all the transportation competitions, whether it's on the countywide scale or the regional scale, the idea is to channel transportation resources as much as possible to areas where growth is occurring. There are opportunities through PSRC for more rural areas to receive money because we don't want to forget about our rural areas, but the transportation and land use are deeply interwoven regionally and on a countywide scale. Go to the next slide. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Mayor Eric Sampalto, Mayor, who also serves as the president of the Puget Sound Regional Council, to share a little bit more about PSRC.
Yeah, Puget Sound Regional Council is King, Pierce, Snohomish, and Kitsap County, 4 counties. And with that, 83 separate cities are members at the council. The Puget Sound Regional Council is something called an MPO, which is a Metropolitan Planning Organization. And it has a direct channel to federal fundings to support transportation, both road transportation for cars, for building roads and bridges, but also for transit. In fact, they get more money for our transit organizations than they do for the road organizations. This is the direct line for funding from the federal government to support your road construction. Classically, Tremont was a large recipient of PSRC money. I was talking with your mayor today, and he was listing off the other projects that have received funding from Puget Sound Regional Council. Puget Sound Regional Council is unique in that it is a metropolitan planning organization, not a regional planning organization, which means that it has direct transference of dollars from the federal government rather than having it wove through WashDOT into the other planning organizations, which are regional in nature. It's critically important to Kitsap County and to all the jurisdictions that we participate in this organization, because if you'll see on the slides, between the road dollars that we've received and the transit dollars received, it's $200 million. And it is the direct line where you get your federal tax dollars back into your local communities. And so, many of the road projects that are in Kitsap County would not have occurred without this relationship of, well, first of all, Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council and then Puget Sound Regional Council. They're linked. There's a lot of other benefits, but I think that's the real piece is the funding that's necessary to build our roads. Some of the other benefits are, however, is meeting our neighbors and getting to know our neighbors and watching what they do and learning from them, learning the good things and the bad things. You know, sometimes you look over at the other side of the water and you see how cities grow. And Port Orchard and Paulsbo have so much in common. You know, we're small cities and we're growing very quickly. And by looking at how King, Pierce, and Snohomish have dealt with that in their small cities, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. And you learn those by the relationships that you meet at the Puget Sound Regional Council and the information that flows from that organization. So I think that's all I have to say for this slide. So next slide is, planning for regional growth, transportation planning and funding, economic development, creating an equitable region, and regional data. Puget Sound Regional Council is the center of all things data. If you want data information about what's going on in your community, everything from equity issues to the size and scope of roads, to pedestrian connection routes, to, you know, sidewalk conditions. I mean, you name it. They employ over 35 people that do nothing but data. And so if you want to have a data-informed community and do data-informed decisions, Puget Sound Regional Council is your friend. You can get a hold of them, ask for specific information, and they will give it to you to keep you informed in your decision-making. They've also done a huge amount of work lately on equity issues. If you go out to their website, you can see the history of racial activities in our Puget Sound region, the nature of redlining and the history of some of the more not so good things we did in the past, and learn from it. They've done an enormous amount of work there. And then they also have the Economic Development District for the greater Puget Sound area, which is kind of like Kitsap Economic Development Alliance here in Kitsap. Well, the EDD, Economic Development District, is for the whole region. And so there's some very interesting people that are on that board, and they do a lot of economic development work there. So I think that's all I have for that slide. Is there anything more? This is basically the structure. The General Assembly meets every year, and it is representatives from the 83 cities and the counties that all get together and vote for the elected leadership. The governing board is the executive board, and with that feeds into it the executive committee and the operations committee. The executive committee is basically the chairs from all of the sub boards that be at the executive committee. The operations committee is, I call it the nuts and bolts committee. It's where we look at the books. We make sure that the money is being spent accordingly. The equity advisory committee is doing all of this equity work, and they're actually taking equity information and feeding it into the Transportation Policy Board and the Growth Management Policy Board. The TPB and the GMP, the Growth Management is where we talk about how we are GMA compliant throughout the region. It is how growth is handled, what we need to do in order to absorb the huge increases in population that we're receiving. They also, the Growth Management Policy Board reviews all of our comprehensive plans, and they're in that process right now. 83 different well, there's more than that. That's just the cities, but 83 comprehensive plans. They review them all and bring suggestions, make sure that they're headed in a compliant way. The Transportation Policy Board is where we talk about specific projects, specific concepts that we want to achieve through our transportation infrastructure. So, and both of the policy boards have advisory committees that help form their agendas. So, and next, what's next? This shows you how many people are involved from Kitsap County in all of these boards. And our voices, we might be small regionally. I mean, we're the tiny county, right? But we've got a huge voice over there. And oftentimes King, Pierce, and Snohomish are kind of jockeying back and forth, and Kitsap County is the tiebreaker. We have kind of an interesting role. We're a collection of relatively small cities, and yet we have a huge amount of influence there. And because in a way, as I said, we have the advantage of learning we can learn from them, and we can influence their future decisions from a small position. It's pretty remarkable, actually. Mayor Patonsu is on the executive board with me. Well, I'm the president right now. I have another year left. I actually kind of inherited my position on the executive board from Carolyn Powers from the city of Port Orchard many years ago. But you can see all the people, we all participate. All the voices are really important. It's a really a fascinating place to be involved in. So next slide. And here's the money, $118 million for our region, for not Kitsap County, for the cities and Kitsap County, for our dollars. The regional competition, we generally don't have a lot of influence in because we're not as big, but you know, the countywide competition, it really literally has built so many of our roads in Kitsap County. When you're building good sized roads, you have your cash tax, you have dollars coming from various sources, and this is an enormous source that we have used throughout the entire county. So it's really important. Anyway, next slide. And here is Kitsap Transit, $82 million for transit. So the combination of which it's really important that we attend. And I'm on my last little bit as a mayor. This is the end of my 4th term, and so I'm doing this roadshow to encourage all of the elected people to be involved and work in this organization, because it's so important for the future nature of Kitsap and our ability to fund the kind of transportation our citizens deserve in our county. So that's it, isn't it? Okay, this is what we're doing right now. We're doing deep dives on ferries, trying to figure out what we can do. There's 37 states in the United States that have ferries. 37, and yet Washington State is still not able to access as much federal funds as we need in order to support our ferry system. We're off to a shipyard to look at ferries here in just about another week. The regional economic strategy, how can we diversify our economy so we're not dependent on just aerospace and tech? I think that's a huge question for the entire region. Safety action plan, Target Zero in Washington State, which is the desire to have 0 highway fatalities in this state. How can we make our roads safer, not just through enforcement, but by actual physical design? How do we make our roads safer to work on? Summer Planning Academy, that's where we have, I think it's about 35 high schoolers come into PSRC in the summer, and they learn all about planning and the relationship of growth management to their local communities. Boy, a bunch of smart kids this summer. It was fun. And then once again, I talked about the legacy of the structural racism. That is a huge deal. And I think Puget Sound Regional Council has done the best job with that of any organization I know. I really encourage you to go out to the website and take a look. So that's all I have. For one of the things I'd like to say to you, you know, being on a city council is a huge honor, and it's a huge honor for me to be here and speaking with you tonight. I kind of look at Port Orchard as kind of our sister city. We're the 2 small cities in the county. Although you guys are growing like a weed, and so are we. We have much in common, and it's really important that we work together. Mayor Patonsu and I work very closely together on many different boards. Welcome to Council Land. You guys are doing good work, and I appreciate you taking time to listen to me tonight. So thank you very much. If you got questions? Oh my God, look at the hands. Boom, boom.
Yeah, all right. Councilmember Chang, go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Erickson, thank you for the presentation. I had a quick question about your statement that Washington State is not accessing as much federal funding, I guess, for the ferries. Do you think that's because we require all boats to be built in state as opposed to anywhere else in the country?
I absolutely is true. We have very strict rules in our purchasing of our ferries that a certain amount has to be done in Washington State, or they have a certain advantage. The shipyards have an advantage in Washington State, and it eliminates their ability to compete for the federal fundings. There is a federal funding, very discretionary funding, and that Kitsap Transit has taken advantage of because they don't have that language in their purchasing requirements, but the Washington State Ferry still does. It's political. It's the state legislature, and you know, sooner or later, we need to get that fixed so that we can. The amount of money we need for our ferries is so ginormous. It's going to be very difficult for us to get that from the state sources. We need to be able to access federal dollars in order to support our ferries. So yes, Fred, long and short of it, yes, there is. So.
Thank you.
Councilmember Diener.
First of all, I wanted to thank everybody for coming and giving this presentation. I don't know that I'd seen a KRCC roadshow before, but I look forward to annual presentations in the future. My question for you, and really it's to help maybe help a couple of the newer the new council members on population allocation and how that is worked up as part of our comprehensive planning, now our 10-year updates. And I was wondering if maybe, Becky, you could give a brief overview on population allocation, because I think that's something that many people don't understand. They think it just happens in a magic box, but it is critical to our growth structure, and how that's, you know, allocated to us by the state, and then we've got to divvy that up. So
yeah, that's all done at the countywide planning policies. And it's a very tense conversation that the jurisdictions have with one another about who is going to take what. It drives the size of our urban growth areas. And it honestly, it's really about infrastructure. Who has the physical infrastructure to take additional people that we're required as cities to grow densely? That's the Growth Management Act, passed in 1990, so that the rural lands can stay rural. So the people have to be in the cities. So which city has the infrastructure to handle the additional growth? And it's a long kind of conversation that we have at the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council. And I know our growth allocation is 5,200 in Paulsbo, but we're only 4.7 square miles. We're about half the size you guys are. So physically, so it's a tough conversation. The genesis is the Growth Management Act. This is something we have to do. So,
yeah.
State law.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Scott.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
Mayor Erickson, thank you for coming tonight, along with everybody from KRCC. I'd like to thank you for the roadshow and the information. It's been fun doing some of those exercises with KRCC, but mainly I'd like to say thank you because if KRCC didn't do what they do, and Mayor Erickson, what you do with PSRC, we wouldn't be on the table, and we wouldn't be at the table, and we'd be on the menu, and that's not a good place to be. So thank you again for very, very much.
Thank you, Councilman Rosa Pep. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Warden.
I just want to take a second to say thank you very much for giving us that presentation. Being new, it's definitely nice to see these presentations and help us understand how dollars are advocated and like the countywide competition. I sat in on a KRCC meeting for Mayor Rob one day, and that was the main conversation. I learned quite a bit sitting there going over that. As an example, I didn't know we have 3 county commissioners, but they only have 1 vote collectively. That's pretty wild to me. But I learned quite a bit. So thank you for again tonight showing us the presentation. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. And I'd like to close this out by saying please become involved with both of these organizations. Okay, we want your voices. It's important that we hear from you. And going into Puget Sound Regional Council, and I go in physically, it's a lot of work. But it is so important for our whole community that this happens. And I know Mayor Patonks is in the same boat. We need council members to step up and be part of these conversations. And so if I have one request, it's show up at the meetings, be involved. We're all in this for all of Kitsap County. And so it's important. So with that, if not, my husband's at home. I want to go home.
Mayor Erickson, I want to thank you and Sophie and Pauline and Zach. Greatly appreciate you being here tonight and sharing some background and information on KRCC. Thank you.
Thank you so
guys.
much for having us. Appreciate you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, we'll give Brandy a moment to teleport people in and out and set up the next presentation. Our next presentation is going to be from the Western Washington Small Business Development Center, and that is an organization that the city of Port Orchard and the other jurisdictions in the county and the private sector help fund resources to help assist our small businesses. And I will let CJ and Joyce talk about the Small Business Development Center. Welcome, CJ and Joyce. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us. So today we're going to talk to you about our 2023 activities. And my name is CJ Seitz. I'm the Executive Director of the Small Business Development Centers for Western, and I'm joining you from Bellingham tonight. Next slide, please. So the mission and the vision of the Small Business Development Center really is to add economic vitality in our small business communities. And we do this primarily by one-on-one individual counseling and also through training. And a little bit of background about the SBDC. This is a program of the Small Business Administration, and it was set up about 50 years ago by the legislature to get funding and technical assistance into small businesses all over America and do it with the locals there and also bring in higher education. So for every dollar that we have locally, we pull down another federal dollar and match, and then we're housed at Western Washington University, and we are able to bring those assets to small business communities also. Next slide. So this is your SBDC team. I'm sure you all know Joyce Oswald. She's fabulous, the center director in Kitsap. And then we had got some 2-year ARPA funding that's sunsetting in October. We got that from Kitsap County. We were able to increase our staff and also our effectiveness in the community. So we brought in Melissa. And then Ash Ryder's located in Bellingham also, but she was joining businesses virtually. She has expertise in farming and in restaurants. And just a little bit of background on the certified business advisor. So all of these advisors have advanced business education. They're required to have owned or ran a small business. They all are certified through the state of Washington, and our centers are accredited through a national accreditation body. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joyce.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So we just want to give you a little overview of what we've been doing during 2023 and bring you up to date on some of our 2024 activities. And so these are some of our statistics. So business starts are just those businesses we've been able to verify within our group of clients. Of course, lots more business starts in the county, but those are the ones we've been able to verify through our client base. And today's client base right now is about 344 clients throughout the entire county. And capital formation means helping those businesses obtain funding. So we work with many local partners, many of our banks and credit unions as folks are applying for SBA loans or other loans in the communities. And so we help them try to obtain that funding. Then you can see their total sales and then the number of jobs that these small businesses support. So in 2023, we advised about 160 businesses, and because of Melissa and Ash's participation going through 2024, we've about doubled that this year. and then about 900 hours of counseling support hours, and then training participants. So I'm a former educator, and so I've really emphasized that education piece. You can see this photo. This is the Matchstick Lab, which is up at Vibe Coworks, which has been on its second cohort. And the idea there is to help underserved business owners improve and expand their businesses. So these are business owners throughout Kitsap that have participated in this program. Can I have the next slide, please? And so what did we do during 2023, 2024? Well, the ARPA funds were really wonderful, to have that extra boost in funding. So we were able to do several small business forums, which I'll talk about more. CJ came down to Port Orchard one morning, and we talked to the Port Orchard Bay Street Association about the lessons learned from the flooding that happened back in Whatcom County in 2022. And so that was an important thing to talk about, some of the state disaster funding that's come up for small businesses. So we talked to those Bay Street merchants about that. We also did more with employee ownership. We also did more Spanish language outreach and technical assistance, held workshops on taxes and cybersecurity, and then have developed a strong partnership with Kitsap Community Resources with their BEST program. We've been helping not only with the English language, but now the new Spanish language BEST program, which their second cohort is actually starting this week. If I can have the next slide, please. So the BIPOC business forums, we've held those in Bremerton at the Marvin Williams Center, also at the Kitsap Conference Center. And we've had topics such as, how to obtain financing, how to expand and grow your business. The most recent forum that we did was about government contracting, because as we know, with the large shipyard infrastructure optimization program, SIOP, I'm sure you've all heard about that, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for government contracting. So we wanted to make sure that those underserved business owners were aware of that process. And we regularly partner with KEDA, the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, NAACP, and other nonprofits to help those business owners attain that kind of certification. Next slide, please. And one of our emphasis has been employee ownership. So there's new legislation here in Washington to support and encourage companies to switch to employee ownership. Some of you might be familiar with Safe Boats here in the county that has gone to an employee stock ownership program. We worked with the Northwest Cooperative Development Association to basically look at doing caregiver cooperatives here in Kitsap County. So that would be a group of caregivers that would band together basically to form their own company and then manage their own company and provide care, because of course we have an aging population. So Cooperative Development Center has done this on 5 other counties. It's been very successful. So we worked very closely. We held several workshops and a training academy with them. If I could have the next slide, please. And these are all the tax tips workshops that we held throughout the county. Of course, taxes are really critical for a lot of businesses about how to manage their taxes for their small businesses. And so we worked with businesses all over the county, in various places. I held one workshop over at the Port Orchard branch of Kitsap Credit Union, and we held them all throughout the community. We also work with the BEST program, Matchstick Lab, and try to really get that word out. We also recently hosted a workshop with the Washington Department of Revenue on sales taxes and business and occupation taxes, which was very helpful for small businesses. Can I have the next slide, please? And then cybersecurity awareness. A lot of times small businesses think that this is not an issue, but of course we hear things in the news every day about cybersecurity problems. We're fortunate to have Angela Henderson, who's at Western's Paulsbo campus. She's the academic liaison for the cyber range there and is a cybersecurity expert and has been able to teach several workshops around the county. We just did one last Friday at the Kitsap Credit Union office in Bremerton. So once again, just trying to get good information out to people and share that knowledge with small businesses so that they can also train their employees, which is important. Next slide, please. And then Kitsap Community Resources. So this has been a big emphasis to work with those training programs. So, at Kitsap Community Resources for several years, they've run the BEST program, Business Education Skills Training Program. And this is an opportunity for small business owners or aspiring small business owners to go through an 8-week program of really very detailed business planning, research, etc. And so I always come into that, talk about taxes. I'm a former tax accountant, so an area I can really help in. But once again, John King, the instructor, and I work very closely. Many of those, the students in that either are current clients or become our future clients. And so once again, just trying to support them and work together. One thing I've been trying to work on is a micro lending program for graduates of this program, and we're making some progress in that area. And I hope in 2025, we'll be able to make that a reality too. And next slide. And so one of the things we've really focused in on is that digital marketing presence. You know, one of the ways we've been able to reach those underserved businesses through the ARPA grant was really our mandate was how can we reach those folks? So we really got out there on Facebook and LinkedIn and really have made some tremendous connections. So we've got a really much more diverse group of clients, people coming to our workshops and asking for our one-on-one advising services. Next slide, please. And then what we do monthly newsletters. So this is very helpful. In fact, I was just in a meeting today where we were talking about how important that is for small business owners to get those newsletters. So we try to put in things like grants that are coming up and available, workshops, you know, other educational opportunities for them, things of interest that they should take a look at. And so we work very strongly on that. We have a very high success rate of people opening our newsletters and really accessing resources that way. Next slide, please. And we've been doing more bilingual outreach. I have some Spanish speaking abilities, so I've been out there in the community doing some Spanish language advising. I've also been assisting the instructor that is at Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center, and that's Angelica Winter, and been doing classes with her there with the Spanish language best group. So the second class is just starting this week. And so this is a wonderful new emphasis that we've been adding to the county here. Next slide, please. And then we like to showcase our clients. And so this was this last summer, this was the Earth Day Award. And this was one of our clients, Rima Schultz, who has a storefront on Callow Avenue in Bremerton selling art supplies. And she's actually taking in used art supplies and reselling them in her shop. And so she won the county's Earth Day Award. So she's someone we've worked with for the last 2 years and a great success story. In fact, I just spoke with her recently, said she's had her best month ever with her retail business. So things are going very well for her. Next slide, please. And then, so what's happening out there? Well, you know, the capital restrictions, you know, are a problem for a lot of our small business owners. You know, the line of credit, the cost of lending has been problematic. And of course, now that we see some of the downturns in the interest rates, I'm hoping that will help some of our small businesses. You know, hiring challenges, still a problem out there. We actually had WorkSource speaking to our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Committee today about how they can help with that hiring piece, training, internships. They have funding to help our small business owners. So that's something we're going to work on, getting that word out to small businesses. Next slide, please. And so, you know, we still have some supply chain issues. You know, real estate, of course, has been on a downturn because of the interest rates, as we know. I've been hearing from a lot of Port Orchard restaurants that are struggling to recover with limited foot traffic. You know, they're really having a hard time. So we're really trying to reach out to them. And frequently it's through the bankers that we hear from those folks. And so we try to, you know, assist them and assist the bankers and try to get them into that position where if they need to do some borrowing or whatever we can do to help them recover from COVID. And next slide, please. And we just want to thank you for your support. We're always available. Please send people our way. There's our website, and we have a sign-up link there. So all of our services are free. So please send us those small business owners. We'd love to help them. Any questions?
Questions for Joyce or CJ? Go ahead, Councilmember Fenton.
Yeah, on your services and your outreach for these, the small business, are these free services or do they pay, or how does that go?
It's all free. Yeah, that's what's amazing about this. As CJ mentioned, primary funding comes from federal funding from the Small Business Administration. So this program was basically funded nationwide, to help small businesses. So there are about 1,000 of these centers all over the country. So we're hosted typically in colleges and universities. We were first in Whatcom County with Western, and then it's been about 5 years now, CJ, that we've also been here in Kitsap County. So which was really interesting because we started right, before COVID happened, so we kind of did everything virtually. Now what we do is we meet with people in person if they like, we meet with them via Zoom, I go out to their businesses, however they'd like to meet with us, but it's, all of our services are free.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks.
I'd like to jump in and add that along with the federal funding, in order to pull that federal dollar down, we need to have a local dollar. And so that's why, and it was purposely set up that way so that locals would be involved in the programming, and we can uniquely, modify our programming to meet needs so that we're creating capacity and not competing. And so for every dollar that we collect locally, we can bring another federal dollar down.
Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking your time this evening. With all the resources that you listed, there's a lot of them. All the assistance on taxes and whatnot. Are those like video links that they can get a hold of? Or those in-person training that they attend? How do they receive those?
Sure. So here locally, we've been doing most of our workshops in person, in various places around the county. But also we're part of a statewide network too. And so there's numerous online, on demand or live webinars that business owners can log into also. So we give access to that information too for them. So either way, one of the issues that's come up is this beneficial reporting requirement. And so that's our next workshop that we're going to be putting together. And we'll probably do it hybrid, we'll do, Zoom and in person, is probably the next workshop that we'll do.
It's a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's no lack of how can I say need, and the business owners are terrific because they come to the events, they dialogue, they exchange ideas. It's really terrific to see what some people are doing around the county.
Councilmember Diener.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to thank you for coming tonight and giving a presentation. I've seen the SBDC moniker splashed around here and there, but never really truly understood what was done until tonight. And one of the things that I reflect on is Port Orchard, the county, its cities, and many other jurisdictions in particularly Western Washington are updating their comprehensive plans. And it would be great if there was a policy document that you could prepare for cities, for example, that would help establish goals and policies, objectives, if you will, for our small business community. And we could look at adopting those into our comprehensive plan. And it could be the same document for different cities.
That's a good suggestion. And I think maybe the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance is doing some of that for the county. Yeah, and for the cities. Yeah.
And our city.
They're working with the county.
And we work, daily with them. We work very closely with them, so yeah, it's all part of that. The other neat thing that we have is something called the Kitsap Entrepreneurship and Innovation Working Group. We meet once a month up at Vibe Coworks in Paulsbo, and we bring in, people from all over the county, from the chambers, cities, from educational institutions. Today we had a presentation by WorkSource, trying to look for funding opportunities for small businesses, just a little bit of everything so that we're all talking to each other, not duplicating efforts, but supporting and collaborating, throughout the county.
Councilmember Chang.
Thank you for coming. I was intrigued by your employee ownership, program, and it made me wonder, is there anything similar to encourage businesses to try to buy the buildings that they're renting? Especially restaurants, it seems that they have challenges when their landlords decide, to raise their rents and they have to find another location.
You want me to take that one, Joyce?
Sure.
I can start that one out about, so some owner occupied real estate is something near and dear to our heart for sure. Keeping buildings owned locally is something that we really encourage. And I think the best, there's a lot of different loan programs, but the best one really is what's called an SBA 504 program. And if you're familiar with that, it helps the business owner come in with a very minimal down payment, and then they spread the risk of this building purchase between a commercial bank and then a bond debenture from the SBA. So we do a lot of work in that in helping owners buy their real estate. It's something that is a core value for us too. Joyce, do you want something more to add on that one?
Yeah, the state actually has a special program going on right now, encouraging that very reality of, business owners buying commercial real estate. So it's part of the new Small Business Flex Fund 2 that's come out with the Department of Commerce. So exactly. So what we try to do when those things come up, we pop those in our newsletter, we send out targeted emails to, our clients and really say, hey, this might be something that you may want to take a look at and get more information on. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
All right. There aren't any further questions. I want to thank you, Joyce and CJ, for coming and giving us some information on your activities and some foundational information for the newer members of our council about what you do. So thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mayor Rob, all that information that they gave us at the very end? Is that in our packet, or
yes,
we get that? Okay, okay, because it was their phone number and everything at the very end. Okay, good, because that would be great to know. Okay,
Send people our way. We're happy to help them.
Yep.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, council.
All right, I'll give Brandy just a moment to excuse our guests, and then we're going to get to our we don't have any public hearings this evening, but we do have 3 business items. The first of which is item A, adoption of a resolution adopting the 2025 legislative agenda. And I'm going to give Brandy just a moment to bring Josh Weiss and Shelley Holder over. They're our contract lobbyists with Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Affairs, just in case you have any questions of them. We met, remember, nearly a month ago and talked about legislative priorities. That there's a document in your packet, which are the 2025 legislative priorities that came from that work study session, I believe it was. And Josh, you want to talk a little bit about this and potentially introduce Shelley?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. Nice to see you all. So yeah, first, maybe most important thing, I'd like to introduce Shelley Holder as my colleague at Gordon Thomas Honeywell. And I think you all remember that my former colleague, Annika Bond, left me for a different position here a few months ago. And so we've been working on figuring out how exactly we're going to staff our clients. And I'm really excited to bring Shelley on to work with Port Orchard. She's got about 10 years with GTH working with local governments and really has a phenomenal city background. And lives here in Puget Sound and is just a great experienced member of our team. I think you're really going to enjoy working with her. She brings a higher level of experience than Annika did, and so I think you'll see her playing much more of an equal partner to me in this relationship. So really glad to have you on board, Shelley, and can't wait to introduce you to council members and the mayor in person. So with that, we, as the mayor mentioned, we've been in front of you at least twice this spring and summer. The last time was on the 13th of July. No, I'm sorry, August. And we discussed what should appear on the legislative agenda, if you recall. And that document is in front of you in your
packet. Brandy, if you could just,
there we go. Thank you. So I don't think there's any surprises, but this is, please feel free to ask questions. We want to make sure that what you adopt is representative of our past conversations. And I'll just quickly walk through Mayor, if that's okay, each of the topics, and now I've got this, okay. So I broke this up a little bit differently as we had talked about before. We have on the first page of the document, we have really what we're saying the city is going to take the lead and really have a leadership position in this legislative session. And then further on in the document, I've got a category of issues that we also talked about that we're saying are important to the city and that we will basically be opportunistic. There are other important topics. When the legislature brings these up, we will be ready to jump in and engage on them, but not necessarily something that we're going to lead the charge on. So if we can go back up to the first, thank you, Randy, I appreciate you. We're really saying, making sure that the community event center is front and center for our legislative delegation, letting them know that we don't have an immediate ask for 2025. We are going to be coming back for construction dollars. We do want to make sure and let them know, particularly with the new legislative delegation coming in, or some members coming in that will be different, that what this project is, how important it is to us, the history of it, and really wanting to make sure that we don't lose momentum, even though we don't have a request this year. The Bay Street sea level rise is a contingent request, as we discussed before. If the Climate Commitment Act is repealed at the ballot this fall, there's really probably no opportunity to be asking for climate resilience dollars. But if it is retained, we do think this would meet the category of climate resilience. We know it will help the city in conjunction with the community center development. And we'd like to go ahead and make that request. We will have the opportunity, if that is the case, if we make this request, to provide additional detail about how much money we're really asking for, and we can tune all of this up. On the municipal water supply issue, this has been on the city's agenda for, I want to say 4 years now. Obviously, four more. Yeah, very important issue for the city. We actually just today saw that the Department of Ecology adopted a policy memorandum on municipal water supply. I don't know what it says yet, but these issues are percolating out there. If the legislature gets engaged, we need to be front and center because it has been such an important issue for the city. The Sedgwick roundabouts, we've been asking for since I started working with the city in 2018, in the 2019 session, if not before. We don't know if there's going to be a transportation revenue package. If there is, there will be discussions. We've definitely heard that from legislative leadership, that there will be discussions. We need to be ready to put our requested project forward if there is the opportunity for new revenue. And this is, as I mentioned, this has been the city's top state request for a number of years. So we'll be ready for that.
Councilmember Diener, I see you've got a question, hand raised, I think.
It's not so much a question as it is just to point out that the first line under the Port Orchard Community Event Center, or the first sentence, makes it sound like the center will feature headquarters for the bank as well as mixed-use development, residential development. That's not the case. So I would just suggest rewording that a little bit. The area will accommodate these things, but the center itself is very limited in what it does.
That's an accurate statement. So yeah, there's a master plan project. The community center is part of it. The bank headquarters is part of it, as well as the Orchard Street Plaza.
Okay. So Mayor, let's work together on getting that.
Yeah, we'd wordsmith that a little better. That's a good point. Thank you, Councilmember Diener.
No problem.
The bank's headquarters is not located within the community center.
Got it.
Right.
It's on the adjoining parcel.
Yeah. That's what my question was too. Like, I didn't understand the new headquarters in there. So
It's not.
No, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. We are buying their building. That is their current headquarters, and that's where the community center will be. On that.
Correct. Yeah.
Which I think all of you guys are aware of that. So. Okay, other questions? I mean, our next order of business is going to be to adopt these as our priorities so that Josh has his marching orders as the the legislature starts up after the first of the year. Most cities have a legislative agenda, and the Association of Washington Cities just recently adopted theirs also.
I'm sorry, let me raise my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm trying to be more mindful about raising my hand, but I think Eric's ahead of me.
Okay, Councilmember Warden, you're muted, sir.
I was just going to make the motion, Scott. Go ahead and ask your question.
I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the thoughts on and perhaps movement towards the penalty on vacant buildings. As everybody's aware, Josh, you too, I'm sure we've got a major structure downtown, building downtown that has sat vacant for probably going on a dozen years now. And so I'm hopeful to hear that there's some movement on that, but I'm curious what you feel about that, Josh.
Brandy, can you go down to the next page? So we included this in the other important topics section. As penalty on vacant buildings. I have not heard anything new since the last time we talked. But basically we're just saying that we're poised. I think there's been some conflicting messages about whether or not Paulsbo intends to put this forward. Essentially what we're saying is if there's other entities that are interested and the delegation expresses some interest, we're ready and poised to push on it. But I think if you recall last time we talked, this is going to be, I think, a pretty politically difficult subject when you start talking about, mandating private property owners to do certain things. You know how regulation discussions can get. So we're ready, we're prepared, but we're not going to lead with our chin on it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Warden.
No, can I make a motion?
Anytime you're ready.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt I already know what I'm saying. Make adoption to adopt the 2025 legislative priorities.
Second.
And just a minor, it's our legislative agenda.
Agenda.
I knew that's what you said. So it's so I've got a motion by Councilmember Warden, and that was second by was Councilmember Rosapepe, correct? Okay. Further discussion of our legislative agenda. Councilmember Rosapepe?
No, just wanted to say thank you, Josh, for being here tonight and going through these. Look forward to coming down to the Capitol and seeing you on the days that we have a chance to meet with our legislators. So thank you again in advance and for the work that you do for the city.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you during session 2.
Councilmember Diener?
Thank you, Josh, for presenting. One thing popped up that we talk about every now and then, and that's that the requirement that we have to use local newspapers for certain requirements. And I know that that's been a touchy subject over the years. Do you feel like that will get any traction this year?
I mean, that's one of those issues. I feel like that cities across the state are ready to jump on if the window cracks even a little bit. And it's also one of those where I think it's really hard to predict if and when what the conditions will be that allow an opportunity. There's nothing that makes me think this session will be any different on that issue than past sessions.
Yeah, it's kind of what I suspected.
Yeah.
Good question. All right, Councilmember Rosapepe, you still have your hand raised. Are you still wanting to speak? Nope. All right, you brought it down. All right, there's a motion on the floor. You'll be voting on our 2025 legislative agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. And thank you, Josh. Thank you, Shelley. And we'll see you around soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we're to our second business item. Item B, adoption of a resolution approving a contract with BCRA regarding Tremont Phases 2 and 3 professional services agreement. Mr. Ryan, this is you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The city of Port Orchard has identified the need for non-motorized improvements on the Tremont Street, such as sidewalks and bike lanes. Tremont Street is a key arterial corridor, currently lacks adequate pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Public input indicated that the improvements are most needed between Port Orchard Boulevard and Sydney Avenue. To address this, the Tremont Phases 2 and 3 non-motorized improvement project has been proposed. The project will evaluate and enhance non-motorized connectivity along the corridor, including connections between neighborhoods and Van Zee Park. The study will develop and assess various alternatives with conceptual designs prepared for each option. Once approved by the City Council, the project will proceed to preliminary design phase, reaching 90% completion in preparation for the future phases. Potential improvements include sidewalks, planter strips, bike lanes, crosswalks, intersection enhancements, and street lighting and permanent traffic control measures. In 2023, the Public Works Department applied for and received a grant in the amount of $732,000 by the Washington State Department of Transportation Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Program. With no local funding match required, the City Council accepted the grant on June 27, 2023. The City of Port Orchard issued a request for qualifications for an architectural and engineering services for the Tremont Phase 2 and 3 project. The RFQ is advertised in the Kitsap Sun and the Daily Journal of Commerce on April 26th. By the submission deadline of May 17th, the Public Works Department received 2 statements of qualifications from 2 different vendors. After viewing the SOQs or statement of qualifications, both firms were interviewed. Public Works staff selected BCRA as the most qualified, responsible, and responsive consultant. BCRA Incorporated submitted a proposed scope of work, budget, and fee proposal accounting to $716,828.39. Staff recommends adopting a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with BCRA Incorporated for the project, aligning with Chapter 8 of our Transportation and Comprehensive Plan. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with BCRA Inc. for the Tremont Phase 2 and 3 non-motorized improvements project in the amount of $716,828.39.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, a second by Councilmember Diener. Councilmember Rosa Pepe is the motion maker. You're allowed to speak first.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. First of all, the fact is that there's no city dollars going for this. It's great. It's great to see us connecting our community. We definitely know that we need more, besides sidewalks, other modes of transportation. So definitely, voting for this. And I want to say thanks to the city and the folks for applying for the grant and getting it. It's a huge win-win. So thank you.
Councilmember Fenton. You're muted.
Muted.
Yeah, I thought that was great. No local fundings, from the citizens. So awesome on that. My question is definitely a sidewalk from Sydney to, the Port Orchard Boulevard. And then on both sides, there sidewalks. I was kind of curious how you're going to implement maybe a bike path, or when it comes to the Van Zee Park, are you talking about sidewalks going up Sydney? Is that what that means?
No, that's what this design process is about, is determine it's only along Tremont between Port Orchard Boulevard up to Sydney. And it's for intersection improvements, multimodal improvements, which could be bike lanes, could be sidewalks. And so this design process will develop, is it 3 alternatives, Dennis, I believe?
I believe so.
And then we'll bring to a 30%. We'll bring those to the city council. You guys will have a chance to evaluate those and give us direction as we move forward to a 90% design on the preferred alternative.
Okay. Yeah, because there's sidewalks going all the way down except for one big section. So that's why I was thinking, are we improving other sidewalks going all the way down Tremont?
It's just between Port Orchard Boulevard and Sydney Avenue.
Okay.
The scope of this project is.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Councilmember Warden?
Yeah, thank you. There's no land that we need to acquire for any of this, correct?
Don't know until we perform a design whether we need right of way for bike lanes or sidewalks or potential intersection improvements.
Okay, so it wouldn't, if there is after design, then we would
That's-
have money.
Yeah,
to
with
do
that potentially, we won't know that until we settle on design and a preferred alternative.
And then I'm gonna forget to ask this question later, so I'm just gonna throw it out there now. Is there adequate parking at Banzi Park right there?
Well, if you count the lot that nobody wants to use, the lot, the paved lot out front,
Yeah,
when the pickleball courts are full and people
yeah,
playing frisbee, it's full. You know, you
Yeah.
can see that quite frequently. I'm a pickleball player, so I'm aware of it. But there is a gravel lot that you access from the backside that has quite a bit of capacity. And then there's some shoulder parking also up on Sydney, just south of Tremont.
okay. It's been a pretty busy month at that park when I drive by there, so I was just
Busy, yeah, busy all summer. It is.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Councilmember Diener?
So I just wanted to comment on the bicycle count. Task XT1 says that there will be a collection of data on bicycle counts at the intersections, and we've all gotten emails over the years or recently that from bikers that have expressed a real reluctance to bike in certain areas in town because it's not safe. They don't feel it's safe. Tremont, for example, has areas where there's a curb and you can easily get pinched between traffic and a curb. And so I guess where I'm headed is that we might see a lower than expected count of bicyclists at these intersections, but we got to remember that it might be because people are reluctant or don't feel very secure in biking in these areas. And so I don't want to see a low bicycle count reflect that there's not a need for bicycle improvements, because there definitely is.
We're 100% with you. Okay, other comments, questions? We have a motion on the floor to approve a contract with BCRA regarding the Tremont's Phases 2 and 3 professional services agreement. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the contract is approved. We're to our last business item, which is adoption of a resolution confirming the appointment of a code enforcement officer. Ms. Archer, this is you.
Thank you, Council Mayor. Before you this evening, Council, I am pinch hitting for Debbie Lund, who is celebrating her wedding anniversary, by presenting this item to you. This is a resolution confirming the appointment of a code enforcement officer for the community development team. You may be aware the the code enforcement officer 1 position was recently vacated, and the Human Resources Department has successfully recruited, and we have found a wonderful new member to join the team in this position. The municipal code requires the city council to confirm this position, and some legislative research, historical research has confirmed for me the reason why was originally code enforcement officers in the city were given a limited commission. However, the state law changed a number of years ago that makes that not an option for us. So these individuals are no longer limited commission officers. They are just general city employees who perform code enforcement duties for the city. However, we still have that confirmation process in our code. And so we come to you this evening asking for the city council to make a confirmation vote. We typically do this by resolution. So the motion would be to adopt a resolution confirming the appointment of Dara D. Seamus to the position of code enforcement officer.
Councilmember Diener?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution appointing Dara D. Seamus as a Port Orchard code enforcement officer.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Diener, second by Councilmember Fenton. Councilmember Diener, I see your hand raised.
Yep. Just a quick question, if it can be answered. Does Dara come with past code enforcement experience?
Yes, my understanding from Debbie is yes, she does have that experience.
Okay, that's great. I only
ask
ask because it can be quite an eye opener if you're new to that line of business, and but it's good to have somebody who's seasoned.
She is coming from us from Kitsap Public Health in a compliance aspect there. So not municipal, but this is an entry level position. So she does
Okay.
have a bachelor's in science, I believe, and also that experience at Kitsap Public. She's been there a couple of years at Kitsap Public Health. Councilmember Warden.
I clicked on it to kind of talk about, she definitely has enforcement experience by working at the health department and working on septic systems and enforcement on them. So that's a pretty grueling job. So she definitely, I have no idea who she is, but I'm pretty confident she has a pretty tough back, because in order to talk to homeowners and deal with all that, it's a big job. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Just a sidebar here too, before we vote, our code, this brought to light, we have our archaic provision in our code that directors, and I think always should be confirmed, and that's in our code. But this particular position, the only reason it's in our code is because it used to be a limited commission and it no longer, state law doesn't require that anymore. This is just another one of our employees. Is there any desire as we clean up code later?
Yes.
Not that this is a priority at all, but to bring up a cleanup provision to remove this requirement. So, okay, I'm seeing some heads.
I agree.
nod.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Chang.
Yeah, can you tell us a little more about where she lives? That information was redacted on the resume that we received.
No, we can't speak about that in an open session.
Nor her qualifications. We shouldn't be here in an open session. That's why this is a bit archaic, what we're doing here
So,
tonight.
and just a point of note on that. So, your employees' home addresses are exempt under the Public Records Act as long as they are kept in the personnel file or personnel related files. If someone puts their home address in an email, that loses its exemption. So we're very cautious about not sharing unnecessarily the private information about employees. So that's the context for that answer, that rather abrupt answer. So I apologize.
And this is truly an entry level code enforcement. The person that departed moved out of the area. When we hired her, she was one of our parking enforcement folks. So she had no experience. So we're actually getting somebody with some experience, which is a nice plus. So I'm excited to have Dara joining us. So any last comments or questions? All right, you'll be voting on adoption of a resolution confirming the appointment of a code enforcement officer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. We don't have any discussion items. We do have an executive session planned for after the good of the order. It should be fairly short. Let's go to council committee reports. And economic development and tourism. I see you're gonna meet on October 14th. Have you met since our last council meeting? I know the chair isn't here, but I don't think you have.
No.
Okay. Utilities is going to meet on October 8th. I don't believe you met since our last council meeting.
Yeah, yes, we did. Utilities did meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead if you want to give a report.
Basically, we went through a comprehensive list of projects, and they're all on schedule and currently within budget. Those were the primary. And Dennis, I don't know whether you'll be bringing it up, but we have an opportunity, I believe on October 8th, we had talked about before our meeting of possibly touring the Marina Pump Station. So when Dennis gets to that, we can see if that date was still going to hold or whether we're going to move that. And that's the report on utilities. We're moving forward.
Okay. Finance, I know their next meeting is a all-day meeting on October 18th. Noah, is there another meeting? It's escaping me. Here it is. October 15th at 3 p.m. They're also meeting. And those two meetings will be solely about the budget. And they have not met since our transportation was scheduled to meet tonight. But we had some technical difficulties with Zoom and couldn't get the meeting to launch. And so that meeting will get rescheduled. Land use is scheduled to meet on October 16th. Have you had a meeting?
We did. We had a meeting, and I don't believe we did an update on that one since then. Basically, the comprehensive plan is the one thing that's taking everybody's time, and I hope council members are reviewing that a little bit at a time and giving feedback to Nick. We had a discussion about non-conforming uses and structures, and that one will probably have to have a follow-on meeting. But at this point in time, the consensus is to wait till we do a zoning change and not do individual non-conforming use. And we also had a discussion that came up about Puget Sound Energy with electric vehicle parking. They're proposing some help in downtown with a couple of charging units, but more to follow on that. I think that was.
It won't necessarily be downtown. They'll
Okay.
be,
Good point.
We gave them.
Good point, Mayor.
About 8 different potential sites, and the Puget Sound Energy will do some public outreach around those. And these chargers will be mounted on utility poles, and they're likely going to install 2 of them somewhere in the city. So they've got a federal program and some dollars to install those. So, Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, I believe Jay made that statement because that the examples that we were given, they were all downtown. But
close to down, yeah. Some of them were upwards Givens and
yeah, some were residential streets, if I recall.
Yeah.
Thanks for the save, Eric.
All right. Lodging tax. Brandy, do you have an update on that? I know John's, if this committee met yet?
Yes, so we met on the 20th, which was a few days ago. It's been a long week. I think it was Friday. So we met Friday, and for the 2023-2024 Lodging Tax Committee members got together, reviewed the application, went over some changes that they would like to implement. We will be opening it up next week. We'll keep it open all the way up until the end of October, and we will meet October 30th with the applicants. And then I think November 20th, they will deliberate and provide to the council a recommendation at the end of November meeting.
And Brandy, just remind me, I know council member Morrissey, sorry, wants to reuse the same committee as last year versus appointing a new. Does that need to be confirmed by the council, or? Yes. Okay, so that'll be coming forward. And historically, I've nominated a new committee we don't have many hoteliers or bed and breakfasts that want to participate. So Brandy's convinced the 2 that we had last year to participate. And I believe Cody from the Chamber of Commerce participated last year and wishes to, and John would like him to continue this year. And I think Samantha Smith from the Merchants Association, is that the other one? Is that not correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, would be the 2 nonprofits that participate in the process. So
yes. So my plan is to bring it before the council at the first meeting in October. The state law requires that the committee structure be reviewed every year. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to rotate, but the mayor is required to review the structure and appoint. So I will have a resolution for the council to confirm the mayor's appointment for the Lodging Tax Committee for 2024 and 2025.
And it is council members Morrissey's desire, and I'm going to grant that his
Correct.
request and bring it.
It was at
forward.
a request from him to keep the continuity with him being new and taking on this task that he asked to keep the same committee structure for 1 year.
All right. Just want to make you aware of that because it'll be coming to you at the next council meeting. The Sewer Advisory Committee, I see you're going to meet on October 8th. Have you met recently? I don't think you have, but if you have.
We have not.
Okay. Perfect. All right, mayor's report. I got a few little things. I will be at the RMSA, which is Association of Washington Cities insurance risk pool that we participate in their annual meeting in Chelan. Unfortunately, it's a day's drive on the 8th and a day of meetings and a day's drive back, but I will miss the council meeting on the 8th. So your Mayor Pro Tem Fred Chang will be conducting the meeting on October 8th, your next council meeting. I'm hopeful that the chambers will be ready on the 8th. I was up there today and there's still no lights, carpet, and there's scaffolding everywhere up there. So the court is getting close. Their move-in date, or they start moving in the end of this week. There's still a little bit of construction activity going in there, a little bit of painting and some glass that has to be installed. But they are scheduled to be conducting court starting on October 2nd, Wednesday, October 2nd. And I will communicate to you the next, by the end of next week, whether or not we're going to be virtual one last time or the council chambers be ready on the 8th. So I'm hopeful we will be, but looking at the construction activity in there, I'm not 100% certain that that's going to happen. And so you guys requested that we make some ADA improvements to the restroom doors, and that happened today. So we now have activators on the second floor restrooms. They were installed today, and some repairs were made to our front doors too to make those work better. I read your guys's coffee with council, and I saw a couple things on there that I just wanted to give you guys some. So there was questions about transit service west of 16. And I just want you to know, if you weren't aware, that South Kitsap, west and Port Orchard west of 16, and Bainbridge Island both have what's called dial-a-ride service. And they actually pick you up at your doorstep. So more people need to know about that. And that's really how transit starts its incubator service. We don't want to run great big buses all around in McCormick Woods until there's enough people wanting to ride the bus. And so they use you probably see them sit out in that area waiting for a call. They're the access buses, and when they get a call, what they prefer is you call the day before and schedule your ride, and they'll come pick you up. So, Councilmember Warden, you have your hand raised. You're muted, sir.
I do see that bus sitting there right by the course on that little turnout there often. So that makes sense. I will relay that information to that lady. Yeah, they're there all the time, and it makes sense why they're there.
And I bet everybody was jumping to the conclusion that the bus driver was playing hide and seek out there. So, but he's not. He's actually waiting for a ride, so for somebody to call him for a ride. So, and then it's not that they take you door to door to your destination. They pick you up at your doorstep and then take you to the nearest transit stop and connect you with the transit service. So
good to know.
But it's a great service. So that was a great question. And then there was a question about the Bay Street construction. And I just recently did a BCAT interview, and you can find that on our website that talks about the timing of all the projects. And we haven't been delayed. Really, our construction funding is firmly for 2027. We can get that funding a year earlier in 2026 if we get all of our permits in order and our design is complete, which it should be. So we're working towards 2026 for construction. It's possible we could do some utility work in 2025 next year. But I have some concerns about disruption to business and things of that nature. So by the end of the year, we'll have advanced designs have some answers about our permits and things of that nature, and be able to give the bank the answers that they're looking forward for, because their project and our project have to finish roughly at the same time. That's where we're stuck right now. We're not stuck. The bank is waiting for us to catch up with them. So, and then Pat's email and comments this evening. I did share with you, he wrote that email last week. He's not the only one that's written an email about this subject matter. I've talked to the deputy chief about it. You know, as we've got time on Graveyard and the officers are not on call, we're trying to you know, do some more patrols in that area, but that is the part of Bremerton's parking lot. And I've made some suggestions, whether it's additional curb stops or them making some sort of improvements to, you know, to make that less inviting to race in their parking lot. They may need to pass some regulations that don't allow people to be in their lot unless you're, but that's going to come from the port, and that would allow then our police department then to enforce, you know, forms of loitering and things if you're not supposed to be in the parking lot. So anyway, I've passed some suggestions on to the port that, you know, we're here to help, but, you know, they may need to take some action on their side. So Councilmember Diener.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that it's not just about speeding. I was at Penn Bev sitting outside a couple weeks ago on a Thursday, and there was a kid who lit up his tires and created this huge blue plume of smoke that slowly drifted towards the restaurant. And I got up to go and talk to the kid, and he just took off. But so it's not just speeding, it's people revving engines, like Pat was saying, but also burning their tires. And it can be a real hot mess because it's a popular gathering spot. So whatever can be done will be truly appreciated by a lot of people.
I know that many of us live in downtown. If you're out in your yard, you can hear it even up on the hill. So it is a problem, and we're aware of it. And that ends my mayor's report. Department heads. Deputy Chief, you have anything more to share on that or any other issues?
No, sir. Nothing to add.
All right. Let's see here. Ms. Archer.
All right, I was trying to pull up the notes, so I couldn't get to the mute button. Really quickly, we haven't had another development in the Grants Pass case, the case that never ends. The parties submitted a settlement proposal to the trial court, wherein the city, of note in that settlement, the city will pay a portion of the legal fees of the advocates, and the city presented its ordinance, which I discussed in my last report, modifying its regulations and further lessening its restrictions on the unhoused community as a component of that settlement. So I continue to raise these issues simply because I think the headlines read, you know, municipalities have won in this battle, and the answer is far more nuanced than that. So just wanted to keep you abreast of that. Note that my memo remains forthcoming, addressing the ultimate final outcome of this case. So I'm happy to stand for any questions on that or talk about it offline as well. So.
Thank you, Ms. Archer. Mr. Crocker, you have anything to share? I know you're working hard on the budget.
That's what I'm doing right now. My hair's a little frantic here. Nope, no new announcements today other than working hard on the budget. Again, for the new council members, just to check in on the calendar, we are required to publish a budget for the public by October 1st. So this is the last week that we are putting together and rebalancing the mayor's budget to have available to the public by October 1st. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, I got a question.
Okay, yes.
Oh, yeah, for Noah. Now, I thought on October 18th, we were getting together for the financial, for the whole budget. So I'm a little confused.
Okay, so what he's saying is the mayor's budget needs to be published by October 1st.
Okay. Finance
committee has a meeting on the 15th. The finance committee, not the full council, has a meeting on the 18th all day. So I know you and Councilmember Rosa Pepe wish to observe that meeting, but it would be problematic for you to participate in the dialogue. That's the finance committee meeting on that date. So you guys are there then from there, the work.
Well, and I'll add one more So one more meeting in between. So the 15th, we meet with the Finance Committee, and then that evening is the work study session with the full
Correct. I'm
council
sorry.
to go over the full budget. And then we'll again meet with the Finance Committee on the 18th with department heads to have a little more detailed conversation.
Yep.
Okay,
So-
oh, good. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I missed that meeting on the evening of the 15th. I had it 1 week later. So, and then thereafter, after those meetings with on the two of them on the 15th, the 18th, thereafter the council should be continuing deliberations and eventually taking action to approve the final budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Ryan.
Good evening again. If Clerk Wallace would let me share a quick drone video, I wanted to share some project overviews, but while I get that prepared, I just want to take a quick moment and reflect. I am wrapping up the last day of my first year here at Port Orchard. I am extremely appreciative of the collaborative, positive, cohesive team that we have. Peers are great. Our elected officials are great. It is really a great place to be here. So after a year, I sincerely thank all of you. Also want to report back that a few weeks ago, I attended the National American Public Works Conference, just keeping up on industry innovations and the things that we can bring back to build our department up. So with that, I will share this video if possible. Do I have the ability to share yet, Brandy?
Yes, you should.
Okay, here we go. Is that working?
No, we're still looking at your head.
All righty.
There we go.
All right, here we go. I'll kind of talk through this. This is a quick 2 minutes here. So is it going?
Nope.
No, we got a dark screen.
Nope.
And
Probably lagging from the loading.
Okay. I'll give it a.
Is it a night video?
It's an aerial video. I'll show. I can share it later through email. So
which project is it, Dennis?
Well, we had the pottery updates, and then we also had Marina Pump Station, and then the new roundabout that's been up.
All right. We'll try to email that video out to you. Hopefully that works better. So, Ms. Wallace?
I don't have anything new to report tonight.
Okay. We have our second citizen comment period. Is there anybody online or in the lobby?
No members of the public are online, nor are they in person.
Okay, we'll close the second citizen comment period. We're at good of the order because we're going to adjourn from our executive session. So, Councilmember Fenton, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want a clarification. I do have on for October 15th, it says 4 o'clock a tour. So do you think that was our tour for at the pump stations? Do you have that down, Ryan? Dennis?
We did. I was going to follow up back that. So Councilmember Rosa Pepe mentioned I think the 8th, and I think we talked about the 15th, but there is a conflict with the Finance Committee. So I think I'm going to have to find an alternative date.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we have a SAC, and then, yeah, that's the 8th. It will be like really packed in.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll do better getting the drone footage to you as well, which will be a great view for that project.
Okay.
The 29th is a 5th Tuesday. You guys want the night off. You might want the night off, but
for the tour?
Just throwing that out there. So
Yeah, I could do it if you guys can, but
Councilmember Warden, I see your hand raised.
Yeah. Couple weeks ago, had the honor of being a judge at I wish Chief Brown was here at the Blue Star Mothers event at the Armory. Blue Star Mothers is a support system for current military members and veterans. It was a smoke off. I was one of 3 judges. It was Chief Brown, Chief Fawcett, South Kitsap Fire, Jay Biller, South Kitsap School Board, the Sheriff's Department, and Harold with the Armory. And Chief Fawcett won Chief Brown wasn't real happy with that one, but I told them all I'm more than willing to eat at all their houses, no problem. And then one other thing, I was at the POPSA meeting the other day, and Kathleen Wilson said that the Port Orchard Library issues more library cards than any other library in the whole registry. That's amazing to me, because I was really surprised. So that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. So most people there were pretty surprised to hear that as well. So I thought I would just share that information.
I believe at least they at one time had the highest foot traffic in their lobby too. It's a busy location, and can't wait to provide them a new home in the community center because it's really needed.
Yeah.
Councilmember Diener?
Yeah, I was going to say, every time I've been in a library recently, it's been busy, very busy. So yeah, it does get a lot of traffic. I was going to ask, the Foster pilot memo that Josh mentioned, that's been a policy memo that's been adopted. Could we get a copy of that?
Sounds like it was just issued today.
Yeah, I just like to make sure we get a copy when you have an opportunity to do that.
So Dennis, you on that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so I have not received that yet. I can report back that we have a draft mitigation plan that we are providing comments back to the consultant, and in the near future, we hope to bring it forward to possibly an executive session.
So Dennis, that wasn't the question though.
I'm sorry.
Josh made a statement earlier today that there was a policy guidance issued from Ecology, I believe it was, and it just happened today. So if you wouldn't mind doing some digging on that and find that, it could be informative to our process.
I will definitely get that to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Chang?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the planned outage on Thursday from PSE. I'm aware that PSE said that they informed all their customers and residents. I was surprised that with the absence of any electricity on Bay Street, that no one put any signs at the intersection with Sydney to just remind people that there is an intersection there. Generally, if the light stops working and it's, there's a four-way flashing red, people know it's a four-way stop. But with nothing there that night, and I'm not blaming anyone because I know that we can't plan for unplanned outages, but I was surprised that it's something that didn't happen.
All right, well, thanks for the comment. Yes, Mr. Ryan, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just to follow up, our staff did as soon as we learned in Public Works of the outage, we did reach out to the state. Those are state signals. We have an agreement called the State Highways within local cities, and it outlines maintenance responsibility, operation responsibilities. So the operation, the outages, that does fall on the state. There is some guidance that foldable stop signs shall not be used in a signalized intersection if there's an outage. But I think we can do some outreach where we require right-of-way work within the city that we can request them to do. They would have to do traffic control, such as flaggers. So I think there's definitely room for improvement that we can push contractors and utility providers to do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. One is one of the reasons the library has a very high card issuance is they usually pull down, I believe it's third graders into the library. They make a trip. Was one of our transportation scheduling from the various all the elementary schools. So that's a big help and for the kids learning about the library and also for the library. The second thing is, and you'll be hearing about this for me from the next month, just a reminder for everybody that's watching, or please remind your friends that in the United States, voting is a fundamental right and an essential part of being an engaged citizen. It allows each of us to have a say in shaping the policies and future of our communities, cities, and country. And voting is coming up and ballots are being issued. But please, if you haven't registered, please hit Kitsap County Auditor and get registered. And thank you very much for participating in democracy.
Nice, well done.
Councilmember Chang, you want another bite of the apple?
Yeah, I should have mentioned it before, but there is a South Kitsap showcase on Thursday, and I know at least a couple of us are going. I don't know if more than a couple of us are going, so I guess we should let Brandy know. I believe Heidi and I are attending. It's the South Kitsap showcase at the high school from 4 to 7 on Thursday.
I think that's on Wednesday, Fred.
Which is tomorrow.
I could be wrong.
I'm looking at the email that says Thursday the 26th.
Yeah,
Tomorrow is Green.
You're right. It is 4 to 7 actually on the 26th.
On the 26th, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Good job.
All right. With that, I am going to adjourn this meeting. We were sent a separate link for an executive session. So I will see you in the executive session in a few moments.
Charlie, do you want to? Yeah.
Thank you, Brandy. We will be entering executive session pursuant to RCW
sorry.
4230. That's all right. 110 subpart 1 subpart I to discuss proposed risks or legal risks of a proposed action. And I believe we'll be in the executive session for no more than 10 minutes with no action to follow, adjournment to follow.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
See
you.
you there.
See you soon.
Yeah.